Okay, it says we're live. Let's give it a couple of moments to catch up here. Oh, yep, we are indeed live. So, guys, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We've got, looks like about 16 out there right now. We'll give everybody a moment or two to file in. Manny, it's good to see you in the chat. I appreciate you joining us. Hopefully, everybody else will sound off as well. But as people are coming in, we thought it would be a lot of fun to have a chat, a specific chat that deals with the Sig Sauer P365. I've been joined with a couple of very gracious guys who want to spend a little bit of time tonight. Of course, you guys know Harry from Harry's Holsters very well, and Bald and Curious. These guys are always out there and always active, and all of us have some experience with the P365 to varying degrees, and we've been able to share some of our stories both on video and then in talking amongst ourselves about some of these things going on. So again, we just thought it'd be kind of fun to just talk about this and perhaps speculate a few things and just tell some stories and that sort of thing. So guys, be sure to sound off out there if you've got questions about the 365 or anything like that. And let's just kind of get started, guys. Feel free to sound off.
You want to start by talking about how great the gun shoots?
Me? I absolutely love the gun. I haven't met the person that had it in his hand and didn't like it. I was shooting Sunday, and a friend of mine came over, gave it to him, and his first thought was, "Oh, this gun is small." Then he grabbed it in his hand, and he goes, "Holy crap! Thing feels real good." Then he fired the magazine. I gave him a 12-round magazine, and he was in love with it after 20 rounds. So this just, and you know, I'm not a small guy. I don't have a gorilla hands like a Big J, but you know, I got a pretty big monkey hands, and I got no issues as far as ergonomics, the feel, the shootability, the accuracy. This thing is pretty much everything you can ask for. And for such a small gun, having 10 rounds, it's a big deal, at least for me.
KS, I think our experiences probably mirror the shootability.
Well, definitely. I certainly found it to be a very ergonomic firearm. I love the grip texture on it, considering how small it is. And I had some debates with various commenters on the different videos that I did. And some people were saying it should be compared to things like the Glock 26 and things like that. And I disagree. I mean, I really consider the P365 basically a micro pistol. It's a pocket pistol, but even with that being said, the ergonomics are really about as spot on as you can possibly get for a small firearm like that. I mean, it really sits nicely, and I like the flat mag all the way up to the 12 rounder. It didn't matter to me. I enjoyed shooting it regardless. The trigger spot on, the sight picture. I mean, you know me, I love the like the Legion and the X-Carry, things like that. So it's the same sight picture, great quality X-ray sights. So I really felt like Sig Sauer tried to throw the kitchen sink at this gun, and by and large, at least from a feature perspective, I think they did a really good job at that.
I can't disagree. I mean, I've made shots at 100 yards reliably with that gun, and for my skill level, that's insane. I can honestly shoot that at distance, slow fire, better than I can any of my other guns. Now, it might be that I've had a lot of rounds through it recently, but at this point, I can shoot it better at 100 yards, better than any of my other guns.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. So people are already talking. By the way, quite a few people have joined us already. We got around 50 watching right now, roughly. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate it. That's awesome. And obviously, people are very excited to one degree or another about this firearm or just want to talk about it. Some people have been mentioning, like Brian Ripple was talking about thoughts on the Mac review. I think we should definitely talk about that tonight a little bit because it was certainly very interesting. But then also, Cajun Tigers was saying never buy a first-year car or handgun. I think we had to talk about that too, because I think we've also heard that in the comments a lot as well, talking about like beta testers and that sort of thing. So what do you guys think about the military arms channel review?
I really like Mac. I really like his reviews. He's one of the few channels that actually help us with the CMAX. So he actually replies to his emails. And if you watch the review, I mean, the review was 3/4 of it. He said exactly what we've been talking right now. Ergos and all that. He was all excited about the gun until to the point where his trigger broke. I mean, his firing pin didn't break, and it did narrow it down. I think there's a post on I think Facebook or somewhere where you can actually see on your magazine drag marks from trigger return spring, and that's how you know it's gonna break. So he narrowed it down. Kind of don't like the fact that he bashed the gun really bad since, like that's kind of the bad taste in my mouth. I mean, give them a chance. We know the Sig is known to be let us be beta testers for them. So he has some quirks, but like me personally, I just put 1,000 rounds through this Sunday. I absolutely have no doubt in my mind this gun's reliable. At least this one is. I can't speak about the rest of them. I know you had a bad luck with yours, but
I had a catastrophic failure at not round, but I shot through 1,000 rounds, a couple very minor bobbles that could have been ammo. And then Big Johnson was going to shoot at round 1,001, and the firing pin was broke. So
that's your first problem. You let the Big Johnson handle it.
Yeah, right.
That was definitely probably a mistake on my part, but I have a really hard time trusting the gun. And one thing to take into account, Sig has come out with this very low failure rate number that I think is complete BS. And I base that off the amount of people that have reached out to me personally, like through Instagram messages, on Instagram posts I've made, and through the comments I've seen on a specific P365 owners group. There are a lot of people who are showing issues, and they're not showing these issues at, round 0 to 250. These issues they might pop up at round 5, they might pop up at round 1,500. And you're seeing these on a daily basis come up. And even if half of them are fake and these people are really P365 haters, it's an insane amount of issues, and it's much higher than what Sig is advertising. And at the show, that video I made, Bill Strader told us there were 7 reported issues through customer service, and that was a 0.08 failure rate. That would mean that there's 8,750 guns out there. Last serial number that came through my shop was in excess of 35,000, and that was right before the NRA show or right after. It was within a week of the NRA show, and I've heard numbers that there's around 40,000 guns in the market. So I'd say that 0.08 failure rate is complete BS. What we're hearing from Sig there is just bull.
Yeah, I would agree. The numbers don't quite add up. I mean, I think they had well over 10,000 within the first month of making them, and that's according to the serial numbers. Unless for some reason when they're making these guns, they aren't making them in consecutive order, which would make absolutely no sense. I know mine was in the 7,000s, and then the loaner that I got was in the 4,000s. But those were very early models. They had the X-ray sights, but they were early models nonetheless. And I know that at least I heard. I suppose I shouldn't say I know for a fact, but from what I understand, they've shut down other lines in the factory to try and catch up with some of the demand of the 365. So surely there are probably, like you say, 40,000 or more firearms out there or becoming out there. So yeah, those numbers are probably a little bit light, according to the truth, I would say.
Yeah, and another thing to take into account, the average person buying this gun, what is it? Something like it's either 40 or 60% of guns I heard never get fired outside of the factory. Somebody buys them, buys a box of ammo with it, and throws it in their sock drawer, for their home defense gun or whatnot. The Sig P365, because of the type gun it is, I think is going to be in that category heavily. You're only going to have a few people who've shot theirs the amount we have. It's not like a Glock 34 or a Sig X5 where a competitor is going to shoot. Like, how many rounds a week do you shoot through your Infinity, Bald?
Well, I haven't shot the Infinity lately. I've been concentrating on the Grand Power because I got a major competition on Sunday. But I shot just Saturday. I shot about 500.
So, 500 rounds a week for your competition.
No, a day. Saturday.
A day. Well,
last week I probably shot between the competition and probably 1,200 rounds.
So there's people putting, I'd say that's a little high on average for most people through one gun, but there's people putting 500 rounds a week through competition guns at a regular basis. This is not going to be a gun in that category. So it's going to take us a lot longer to build up a group of data to have an idea of when this gun will fail. There's not going to be many people that get this gun to 10,000 rounds.
Well, every gun is just a mechanical thing. It's going to fail eventually. You know, the problem is, it's like with any other business. You make 10,000 holsters and you got 10,000 satisfied customers, but only maybe 800 of them will actually leave the positive review. God forbid you get 10 of them that are unsatisfied and they're going to post a negative review twice. That's just the human nature. So you don't hear all these people that have a positive experience with the 365. You don't really hear so much from them. You hear a lot more from the people that have a negative experiences, because that's just a human nature. We like to bitch.
I agree with that to an extent, but even then, there's so much to like about this gun, and with the Sig's dishonesty on the numbers is what concerns me most of all, because there's a lot of guns out there, and frankly, the average person that has a problem is either going to ignore it and write it off, or they're going to call Sig customer service. They are not. There's only 4,000 people in this Facebook group, so and probably optimistically half of those actually own guns. Optimistically.
Well, yeah, that's probably true, you know, and I've been watching some of the comments, what people are saying, and kind of piling on all the different comments from the videos out there, and the experiences really they range quite a bit. One thing that I did notice, and this was just kind of paying attention to stats. I'm a numbers guy, I'm a stats guy. I like stuff like that, and when I see patterns, that it always tends to stick out to me. So, in the first couple of months, most all the comments were rave. They were fantastic. People were saying, like C. Kim has certainly out in the crowd has certainly shown some great enthusiasm for the firearm. Andy Kaufman has some other people like that. And I had a lot of comments like that. They put X amount of rounds through it. It could have been 200 or 300. It could have been 500, 1,000, whatever it is. No problems, having a great time with it. My Life Choices, I know, has one who really likes it. And so there was a lot of success there. As more feedback, and whether Harry, it was yours or Max, or Max especially. I mean, you know, he's got a lot of followers and a lot of we'll say clout loosely out there, and depending on whether you like them or not. But I noticed as soon as those videos started to come out and become more prevalent, and other people were saying problems too. It's not just you guys. There are other people who have come out and have had issues as well. But I started to notice that the comments changed significantly at that point in time. And so I wonder how many are speaking from personal truth versus how many, you know, heard a thing. And Poe was saying just a little while ago that, you know, people love, I think he said dirty laundry, something like that. And I think a little bit we do. And so people kind of glom on to that. And so obviously there's truth to it. You know, you guys wouldn't be talking about these problems if they weren't real problems. They are real problems. There's no doubt about that. Now, you know, what does that mean for the overall, for the firearm itself, or the success or failure of it? We don't really know. But obviously there's some things that need to be done for people to be more comfortable, because the comments now, the vibe right now that I'm getting is a lot of people are saying, I'm going to wait and see. You know, how many do and do not, I don't know, but I hear that more and more. So that means that it could eventually become another popular firearm that came out at the end of last year that for a while was selling like hotcakes and now really isn't selling. I won't mention a name, but it could become one of those things. I'd hate for that to happen, because I agree with you guys. The essence of it is a very good gun. I mean, it's a good capacity for its size, and considering all of the great features that come on it, I think it would be too bad if they weren't able to really circle the wagons and get this stuff figured out.
Yeah, I think a lot of the problem is, though, they've released a very large number of guns, and from what I had a private conversation with somebody that talked with somebody who's closely affiliated with Sig and is in the know. There's some serious issues with the lockup of the gun. And they're saying that's what ultimately is causing the firing pins to break. Apparently the trigger spring issue isn't as serious as you would think. And I just don't. I saw today where a customer had his slide replaced by Sig customer service. So I'm wondering if they're not starting to change the lockup design on the pistol. I mean, he had extraction issues and they sent him a whole new slide. So,
well, not in the defense, but like my only experience with the Sig customer service was with the X5 when I did a video and I actually lost the screw from the rear side because the gun was shooting so low. And when I called him up and I explained that all I want is a screw, the guy wound up selling me the whole plate with the sight and everything. So sometimes it's just easier for them to do that. So the guy got slide replaced because maybe it was just easier for the guy to do that.
Well,
Whoever was on the other phone.
I think it is. A couple things real quick. Alaskan Ballistics, I want to make sure that I gave him a quick shout out. First, thank you for the amazing super chat. Really appreciate that, brother. And he is loving his Harry's holster. Everybody, if you haven't checked out Harry's holsters yet, you need to do that. So that was very nice of him. We look forward to hearing more about that. And hashtag, there you go. There's a Harry's holster right there.
I still can't get it as appendix.
Yeah, I can't either. I can't do that. But then he also said hashtag guard every school. So Alaskan, I really appreciate that very much. To your point, Bald. So my X5, the last X5 I had that was the replacement for the Hudson. I had an issue with it. I had actually an extraction and a magazine issue with it. So I sent it back to Sig Sauer, and they were very nice to me on on the phone and the customer service and everything, and they immediately sent me the labels and all that kind of good stuff. But when I called a couple weeks later to find out the status of it, they said, well, actually, we've decided not to fix it. We're sending you a brand new one. And so to your point, again, I think you're exactly right. I think sometimes it's just easier to replace the whole thing or big parts rather than try and diagnose, which might not actually be a good thing because sometimes the diagnosis might help what could eventually become a systemic problem. And Manny, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Saying thanks to Big Johnson and love the show. Appreciate it, man.
Well, you know what? I had a similar issue with the Grand Power actually. With the X-Trim, I had the lockup, the rotating barrel in the slide. There was a significant wear, and it took a while till I reached the right people. But eventually, I sent the gun in, and they did send me a new one. Took about 6 months or so because they simply didn't import any guns in the meantime. But I had a chance to tour the factory, and I spoke to the owner, and he basically said, this is what happens when you don't really have a control over the steel that comes in. You don't make your own steel. You just work off what you buy. And he goes, the gun, it looked like a bad wear, but the gun was working fine. And even from his words, he said the gun could go another 100,000 rounds, no problem. For me, it was more of a cosmetic, but the importer decided that they're just going to take it and they're going to keep it to diagnose what the problem is. So maybe that's what happened with your Sig X5 as well. Sometimes they rather have a happy customer and they keep the gun to figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah, that is very possible.
What do you guys think about this? Now, I'm a firm believer that all these little guns are not exactly meant to shoot 5, 6, 8,000 rounds. There's a lot going on. People are going to compare this to a Glock 26, and they're gonna say, yeah, well, I got 2,000 rounds, 3,000 rounds, whatever on a Glock 26. But first of all, the Glock's been around forever, and second, Glock 26 is just shrunk Glock 19. So, a lot of parts are the same. So it's really not a micro gun like this. So I don't think these guns, even the little 238, ain't that pretty? Look at this. That's my wife's gun. These guns are simply not made to be shot thousands and thousands of rounds. This is. You load it up, you take to the range, you test fire it, you take to the range once a week, maybe for a couple of rounds, and that's about it. What do you think?
If a gun's designed for that, frankly, I don't want it as a carry gun because if something I'm going to carry, unless it's just a very niche gun, I want to be able to shoot and practice with it. If it's a gun I'm counting to my life, I want to be able to put rounds through it. I haven't bought certain brands of guns in the past that fill certain roles because I've been told that they're not going to last more than 1,000 rounds, 500 rounds for reliability. most notably the Ruger LCP and LCP2.
I'm kind of on the fence on that. Bald, I do agree with you. A lot of the smaller firearms, I mean, we're talking still the same mechanics that are going on in much larger firearms that have a lot more room to breathe and a lot more room to make things happen. So there are even some guns. I mean, if you guys remember, like I think the Kel-Tec, like some of those, the
P380.
Yeah, some of those different guns. I mean, they would come right out and say, man, there's a lifespan for this gun in terms of rounds you shouldn't go over. So I think there's some truth to that. However, I also agree with Harry in that, like my shield. I mean, that's my go back to gun, and that was the gun that beat the 365 to me, hands down. I have every confidence that I can go to the range anytime I want and shoot that gun as much as I want. And I may have to change the recoil spring, a guide rod eventually, and a few other springs here or there periodically, but that's it. That thing should work. And so I agree with that, Bald, but I too would want my carry gun to be able to shot as much as I want it to shoot. If that's the right approach or not, I don't know, but I do feel that way.
Well, like the LCP2, well, it's even uncomfortable to shoot thousands and thousands of rounds. And comparing that thing to a 365, 365 is not that much bigger, So I'm not saying that you shoot 1,000 rounds and you're gonna write the gun off, but like certain parts should be replaced every 2,000 rounds, opposed to a full size gun. Like for example, this, I expect this to last 20, 30, 40,000 rounds without changing anything. This is a battle gun. If
Sig came out and they said, all right, if you want ultimate reliability, you need to place the recoil spring assembly every 1,000 rounds and the magazine springs every 2,500 rounds, I would be perfectly fine with that. If they said the magazine springs every 1,000 rounds, I would be perfectly fine with that. But I want that up front and out there. I want it open. I want to know about it versus a company coming out saying, our gun's perfect. It'll work right away no matter what. And there's nothing wrong with it, versus saying, look, these are the expectations you need to have for this gun. And as long as you take care of it in this manner, it'll work.
Oh, you got a point there.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. By the way, again, real quickly, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. 108 people watching right now. That is just awesome. All to talk about one gun. And, I go back to it. I think you guys might agree, might not agree with this, but at least in my time on YouTube, and that's pretty short span of time, year and a half or so. And even to my recollection before that, I'm not sure that I remember a gun that has garnered quite so much attention. Now, part of that is because of the things like YouTube and Instagram, Facebook, things like that. I mean, obviously information travels in a nanosecond. Poe was talking about that earlier. But it is incredible the amount of attention that the 365 has gotten, whether good, bad, or indifferent. It's gotten a lot of attention.
The gun has gotten a lot of attention, and it deserves. It's a great gun ergonomically, how it handles, how it shoots. I just don't completely trust the reliability. And from talking with a few more industry insiders, there's some issues that need to be addressed, and a lot of the issues are Sig at a corporate level, like people that we don't even know their names. We're told a bunch of names that we know on the internet, people that are very public. Those are just the face. They are not the ones making the decision on when to release the 365, how much testing it goes through pre-production. They're just the ones who are left to handle that situation. So I
don't think, honestly, all the guns that Sig released lately, I don't think they did a whole lot of testing with that. Okay, like the flop with the 320 and all that. Sig's kind of building on the reputation of the hammer-fired guns. Everybody knows 226 and all the clones of 226 that are ultra reliable, and they kind of build on that. You start thinking about the striker-fired guns; they did not have that much of luck, and but every one of them eventually got better. So I think it's the same story. Like this one is in the 28,000s, as far as the serial number. So, there's got to be crap load of them out there. And I think what Sig did, maybe they just took the first 10,000 and wrote them off, whatever problems they had with them, and then they start counting the malfunction past 10,000 model or something like that.
Well, I'll say this is what concerns me also, is I've seen multiple reports of firing pin breakages with born dates after I spoke with Sig about the firing pin defect, and they said it was a carbon issue level. So that either tells me they're not QCing their pins and they still have this carbon issues, or the pins breaking is a result of another design flaw.
I don't think the Sig makes their own pins. I think they buy them.
No, yes, but there's multiple QC checks, both at the manufacturer, and there should probably be some at Sig, or they have somebody accredited that's doing the QC checks in between. They're made from Malaysian injection molding, I think. So, or in Malaysian MEM or something like that. It's a company in Malaysia. And Mateo, that should still get picked up through QC. And I hate to say that they're like, we fixed the problem, and then you see born dates 2-3 weeks afterwards, and the breakages are still occurring. That's a problem.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I was seeing that we've already got some companies that are coming out with some aftermarket parts for that. In fact, I think Mile High had posted an Instagram picture about I think an aftermarket firing pin.
Yeah, and I'll also say this: Glock, the Made in America Glocks. My understanding is the frames and the slides are the only thing made here. Everything else is made overseas, and I'm sure every other manufacturer, they're getting most of their small parts from overseas. So Sig isn't the only one doing this. So we can't, unfortunately, I loved it for it to all be made in the USA, but unfortunately, we can't go up. That's an unreal expectation.
Yeah. Galloway is doing aftermarket parts, according to Mateo.
Yeah, I was actually looking to buy that firing pin, the Striker. It's like $100, but I don't think it's gonna fix any issues as far as the primer smear. It's just gonna maybe peace of mind that it's not gonna break.
The primer smear is the result of the lockup design. So and that's where I wondered. I saw the first case of a slide getting changed, and you can go on the Sig P365 owners group and check that out. But why are they changing it? Unless that slide's just way out of spec, I'm interested to see if we see more slides getting switched out through customer service claims. And that's a very expensive item to replace. That's not a MEM striker. The barrel and the slide are the heart of the gun, really, in terms of cost.
Well, yeah, because you got most machining on that. But I don't know. To be honest, the actual smear on the primer doesn't really concern me that much, as long as it's small and doesn't really touch the brass itself. Because I think that's when it's extreme like that, then you might get to a problem that you're putting a stress at the tip of the striker. I mean, like I said, I saw brass. I saw 40 caliber brass with the primer smear as well that came out of Glocks. So with the little guns like that, there's just way too much crap going on that it can happen. You generally don't get it with like guns like this. With a hammer fired, you get more with a striker fired because that thing kind of sticks that a little longer.
I'll say this: I am not 100% sold. I see in the comments they're talking about how the magazines on the rear show the trigger failure. Every magazine I have has that mark on it. I haven't had a trigger failure yet, so that failure could happen. But anytime the primer smear, the trigger failure, all that stuff. I'm just not 100% sure these are precursors to the gun failing.
Well, yeah, I'm sure a lot of it's conjecture. I'm sure it is.
It is.
Let's see. Jay Paul is saying one YouTuber reported the P365 seized up with a live round when using steel cased ammo. I mean, I'm sure ammo, because that's going to be one of those things that's a variable there. You're going to have different types of quality of ammo, so you never know if that's going to be part of the failure or the gun is.
Yeah, Mateo says that it's primer smear is typical on the 40. I don't know, because pretty much the only 40 I have is my Infinity, and that thing, again, it's a hammer fired, and there's zero issues as far as the primer smear.
Yeah, I had a conversation with somebody this week, and the primer drag wasn't an issue to me. The gun where my firing pin broke, a gentleman who picks up the brass at the range where I was shooting at that day, I was the only one shooting PPU, and it had bulge cases because he sent me a text about that. He didn't keep any of it. He sent it off for scrap because it was so bulged. He couldn't even resize it. So that's kind of a data point. But he swears there was no drag in the primer on that gun, which I thought the same thing about my other gun. I test fired it with him, and there is a slight amount of primer drag. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, I never had any primer drag. In fact, mine never had any issues with the exception of the peening in the front, which was pretty minimal and stopped after, I don't know, 300 rounds, something like that. So never had any issues otherwise. Jerry is saying, ask Harry what mags and what ammo he was using when he did all of his testing.
There, you can go back to the videos and look at the mags. We're all Sig mags because they're the only ones making mags for the P365 as far as I'm aware. The ammo is all in the different videos. I use some Blazer. I use some, I think, PPU, MagTech. There's multiple types of ammo that I used. PPU NATO spec. I think I used some Privy Partisan. I shot, I think, 6 different types of ammo through it before it failed. Or between the, I shot 4 different types through the second gun, and that's all in each video, in each 250 round increment. So you can look that up.
And you shot with all the different types of mags. He's saying 10 round or 12 rounds. You did them all.
Yeah, I did them all. And I will say the lockbacks that I had, the photo lockbacks, were all occurring on one mag because I had all my mags marked. So that could have been a mag issue, which frankly doesn't bother me that much because you find out what that mag is, you relegate it to training, and just don't carry with it.
So Warthog is saying a pistol with a $600 price tag can do better because the MSRP on that's $599. He's exactly right. So what do you think about that comment? Because it's one of the more expensive firearms out there, especially in that category, that size. So for the money, would you have expected better than what is kind of happening currently?
I pretty much, I knew what I was expecting when I was waiting for it because it took forever to get it. So I'd say as far as the value, what I would like Sig to do is ditch this flat base magazine altogether, because when you compare it to a little pinky, it's like a quarter of an inch, not even that. So it's really no sense of having that. And I'd rather pay $10 more and include the 12 rounds. So give me this and give me 12 rounds with a gun. Other than that, the night sights and even the small details, like if you insert the 12 round magazine, even the stippling on a magazine matches the grip. So, I mean, like I said, I sound like a broken record, like a sick fanboy, which I'm really not. But they kind of did everything right, with the exception of the reliability issues that are out there. I haven't experienced any. Not that I'm saying it might happen. I can go out tomorrow and firing pin may break or something might happen. But after tons of rounds, literally zero issues. I tried a bunch of different ammos. I shot a bunch of my reloads, my lead reloads, and everything. No issues. I'm a believer, and thing kind of sits in my truck. It's my EDC.
What was the topic conversation? Or are we talking about value?
Yeah.
Yep.
Value-wise, assuming the gun's reliable, I think it's equally priced with the Glock 43, which makes it a pretty good value. You've got better sights. You've got good sights right out of the box, which when you look at what it costs to put new sights on a 43, it brings the 43 a little bit over the cost of the P365. I do wish they would ship with a flush magazine and then ship with the +2 with the 12 round. They did those two, I think that'd be perfect. Because the pinky one for me is it's a little bit bigger than it needs to be and doesn't offer you an extra round of ammo.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen an extra round of ammo. I liked all the magazines. It was fine one way or the other. But the flat base didn't bother me one bit. And the pinky one, it would have been nice to get a +1 or something like that for sure. Guys, everybody out there, again, if you've got questions for these guys or for me, be sure to ask them in the comments. Always helps to put the @ and the name of our channels, just kind of call it out. Makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, hit us up with any questions you've got. I'm searching around now for questions. Tons of great comments. I mean, you guys have had a pretty extraordinary conversation out here, and a lot of talk about comparing with different firearms like the 43 and the Shield and the 26. A lot of people continually wanting to see people's thoughts on the different firearms and what they like better about one or the other.
Well, Big Johnson, he wants a 17-round magazine for that. Well, you know, brother, you need it.
That is true. He does need it.
You need the 17 rounds.
Yeah, and I'll say this, the P365, a lot of people want to compare it to it really fits a nice niche of competing with the 43 and the Shield. That's where it sits. Like if I can carry a Glock 26 and get away with it, I'm not trying to conceal I don't have concealment issues. I'm probably going to go with a Glock 26 or a Sig P320 subcompact. I like the idea of a larger gun that I can get more of a grip on. It's a little bit thicker, a little bit easier to control. So just kind of a data point.
Yeah, I understand.
I like the fact that, especially with your holster, I mean, I don't really have it on me because just the line of work I'm doing, most of the time it's in the truck. But let's say I go to Walmart and it's such a slim package. Just lift up my shirt, tuck it in, and walk, and it just disappears.
As far as how it carries, it definitely carries well. I personally find a larger gun more comfortable to carry, so that's why I like the 19 size guns. Like I would carry, if I were going to switch from my 19, I'd probably go with this, which is that beautiful P320 X Carry KS sold me. So
that's a good looking gun right there, buddy.
No, this what I had in a truck before, and it's basically Glock 19, but you know, even without the light, with your holster, it's a little more work to get it in. You know that this just slips in so easy.
I feel like somebody should say that's what she said.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna definitely go and troll some IDPA competitions. I'm gonna go shoot IDPA. I'm gonna get like one more 12-round magazine, and I'll go shoot IDPA. Just troll the guys around.
That would be awesome.
Well, I already shot a major competition with my P10C when I forgot my magazines.
Yeah. So, all right. For the P365, what role do you guys see it filling for you?
Oh, it's carry only to me. I mean, you know, it's pretty fun to shoot at the range, but it is a carry gun. I struggle imagining any other real practical role for it.
Yeah, same with me. I love the size because this is something that I literally can have on me at all times. And it won't bother me, and there would be a less of a chance that customers, for example, would notice I have gun on me than having this size of a gun.
I'll say this: I have different criteria for carry guns. Most of the time, I can get away with a full size or a compact, so that's what I carry. So the P365 is like that. I'm wearing certain clothing that's really prohibitive that I only wear probably about 2 to 3% of the time. Or something like boot carry. It's still a little bit big and weighs a little bit just with the amount of ammo for boot carry. So for something like that, I'd stick with my Glock 42. And for pocket carry, it's too big. There you're going to need something like an LCP, or a Glock 42 is probably the biggest that you can get.
Wow.
This for me just fits a very slim role that I'm only going to carry maybe during the summer for a week. That's it. Like it's a very minor amount of time that I'm going to use this.
I guess it boils down to a figure and type of work you do and type of clothes you wear.
Yeah,
you know, I can see that. But you know, I can see this. I can see this like a law enforcement having this as a backup.
Oh,
and a backup gun that actually be as a primary gun.
Yeah, that's definitely something to think about. I mean, this gun has a lot of potential. I just don't completely trust it. And the reason is I want to get down to the meat and bones of this. Like you were talking about the LCP too, you know, not meant to fire 1,000 rounds. Say somebody just fires 1,000 round or 20 rounds a month through or let's say 50 rounds a month. They fire a box of ammo through their LCP2.
Right.
They're going to reach 1,000 rounds in 2 years.
Less than 2 years.
Yeah. So the P365, you know, what my concern is, a lot of these people that have not had issues so far, they fire 200 rounds or whatnot off the gate, and then they'll probably fire 50 rounds every other month or so. Let's just say it has a failure at 3,000 rounds, they're not going to see that for another 4 or 5 years, just roughly. And that's what concerns me about this gun right now, is people trusting it to the degree they are, and they don't have high enough round counts through it to trust it. Whereas when you buy a P320, you know that there are people that have put high round counts through this. There's people with 60, 70,000 rounds for these guns, multiple people. You kind of have a pretty good idea that unless you get something out of spec, what it'll do. We really don't know that yet. 365.
I think you're overthinking it a little too much.
I've had problems with 2 of them. When you've had problems with 2 of them, you're very.
Oh, I'm not denying you that. You definitely had a bad luck, and yeah, you had problems with 2 guns. I wouldn't trust it either. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, in the back of my mind, I still have the doubts because you got all these reports that you see. But me personally, I mean, when you're gonna look at things that way, then it's gonna be kind of hard to find a gun, because every gun you're gonna find something wrong. And no, it's like a car,
No car is perfect. No gun's perfect. I'm not saying it is, but I'm just saying when you go with a known quantity, it's really hard for me to trust this thing yet. And I'll say this: I planned on actually, if this got through the 2,000 rounds without any more bobbles that weren't like very ammo specific, I was thinking maybe the issues I had were due to shooting the plus P powered 124 grain PPU NATO spec ammo. I was thinking of making this my Glock 43, replacing my Glock 43 if it got through the 2,000 rounds without issue. I was going to run some Federal HSTs through it, make sure it ran those reliable, and then start carrying it. It failed to do that, and that kind of scared me.
Maybe I should load up my my reloads a little harder, close to plus P, and shoot next 500, with that.
Yeah,
yeah. I'm not buying ammo. I'm too cheap.
I don't blame you.
Any specs I want.
At the same time, this had bulge cases, and I talked to a guy on the Facebook group today who reloads, and he shot the same exact ammo I shot through it with no bulge cases.
Yeah, so, well, almost every case of the Glock is bulged, so
yeah,
that doesn't really concern me.
Yeah,
even the Grand Powers, for example, they come kind of like a conical shape when they fire, and I never had an issue reloading them. So
my point is, I might have the unicorn bad gun again, and heck, Sig should have picked out this gun special for me, but they didn't. So
you're jinxed. You're jinxed. That's it.
The only guns I've ever had to send back are 1 CZ for dead sights and these 2 P365s and the Smith & Wesson J-frame, which you've had to send quite a few guns back to different manufacturers, right, KS?
Hey, look, Frank Hellman's got a good idea. We should trade out 365s for a couple of weeks and talk again later.
Well,
I would do it in a heartbeat, but in this stupid state, it's not that simple.
That would not be fun if I broke Bald's gun too. I got a feeling he wouldn't like that.
Yeah, right.
I'm the last person that would blame you, but in this state, for me to send you a gun, I literally have to take it off my permit, ship it to you, and then get yours on my permit. It's just a freaking hassle like there's no tomorrow. It was a little different when I sent it to KS because we locked out because I was able to actually pick it up afterwards. But this state is ridiculous.
Yeah. You had asked a question just a moment ago. Sorry, what was the question again, Harry?
I forgot. I'm trying to read the comments, talk to the 2 of you guys, and I'm not as practiced as y'all
are. Sending back. Actually, the only guns that I have sent back in my entire shooting lifetime, which is 25 years or so, are Sig Sauers, believe it or not. The 365 went back for the peening. It turned out to be nothing. The 320s, that was for the drop thing, although do it or don't do it, I don't really care. The likelihood it's going to go off is pretty low, but not saying it can't, just saying it's pretty unlikely. So I've sent back a couple of 320s, and then a very long time ago, a Ruger LCP, when it very, very first came out, it had a recoil spring and guide rod issue, and that was a known issue. I don't know if they did a recall on it, a full recall, but it was a known issue. They replaced it. They were super cool, got it back to me in no time. And those are the only guns I've ever sent back. And I won't tell you how many guns I've owned over the years, but it's a pretty low amount. So a lot of them going back to Sig, not picking on Sig at all, but that's pretty high amount for one company. I hate to say it. I mean, it's just based on that's one guy's experience,
Yeah. My J frame that failed after like 20 rounds. It failed during dry fire again, but it failed within the first 50 dry fire pulls. I got the gun brand new, and the trigger went from 10 pounds to probably 20. There's something really screwed up with the trigger spring. I took it to my gunsmith, and he said, send it back to Smith & Wesson. There's no telling how long it'll take me to figure this out. So that's what concerns me about the SIGs is I'm seeing these failure rates at random intervals, and that just concerns me.
I was kind of lucky. The only gun I sent back was the Grand Power. They just sent me a new one. And what did I do? The PPQ. The Walter PPQ went back because extractor broke or something like that, and they wanted to see it. But I had it back within like 2 weeks. They were pretty fast. Other than that, I've been lucky. I've been lucky on the guns that even KS had a bad luck with.
I'll say this: I haven't gotten.
I still say that the gun that should not be named, he did that to get a free one, and it backfired.
Yep, didn't work.
I'll say this: SIG's customer service has been excellent every time I've spoken with them on the phone.
That's true. That is true. Just kind of pointing out here, I've had several people have commented on different firearms that have gone back, including Springfield Armories, PPQs, guns like that. And Bald, to your point earlier in the evening, these are all mechanical devices, and any can fail really at any time. And so, hopefully nobody out here thinks that we're specifically picking on Sig Sauer. It happened to be the topic of conversation. So I guess we're kind of picking on him by default. But it's not a witch hunt or anything like that. And it's just, it's a fascinating conversation. But you can kind of backtrack to the bigger picture of firearms in general. And at any time, any can fail. No firearms manufacturer is perfect. Most of them have had some sort of recall or flub of some sort or another in their tenure. So I mean, it happens, obviously, and not saying that the 365 is a flub by any stretch, but obviously they're running into some issues, and these things can definitely happen. And hopefully they have the opportunity, and they will turn it around and make sure that things get better, and so their track record gets better.
Well, I'll say this: a lot of people have been accused me of being paid by Glock, which is new to me because I don't know why Glock would pay a holster manufacturer that originally had 500 subs to do a video on a gun. Doesn't make any sense to me. But Glock is the reason, you have a lot of myths, like don't use the slide stop or slide release to release the slide. And because a lot of their Gen 2 guns and their Gen 1 guns had failures, they wouldn't lock back on a slide. So Glock goes, that's for administrative purposes only. That's what Ernest Langdon told me anyway. But Glock had a lot of issues with their Gen 2 guns in 40 cal. They still had issues with their Gen 3s and weapon lights in 40 cal with certain ammo. So SIG isn't immune. SIG isn't the only company this happens to, but at the same time, after the P320, you think – I really thought I was going to go pick up the P365, put 1,000 rounds through it, and it was going to run tops. SIG was going to flood the market with guns, and I was going to make a ton of money selling holsters.
Right.
That's how I thought it was going to go. It obviously didn't go that way, but.
Well, first of all, you got to stop sending holsters for free. I appreciate that. Now, I'm hoping there's a SIG CEO in the audience, and by the way, hit me up if you want to send me a swag pack. I've been bragging about I can pick it up. I can pick it up when I tour the factory in the fall with Max Michel.
Yeah, if SIG wants to send me a free MCX or NPX or VTAC, I'm down. Just saying.
Yeah, I can't have any of that. I'm hoping I'll get to shoot them when I go for the factory tour. But that's one thing that I'm really, really looking forward to.
Do you mind if we change gears a little bit? I got a question for Bald regarding New York compliant.
Sure.
Go on.
I just bought an unconverted Mac 90. Would that be legal as a truck gun if I were to have a 50 state in New York? If I were to drive through New York with that in the back with 10-round mags, would that be fine?
No.
No.
Is it semi-automatic?
Yes.
Does it have a detachable magazine?
Yes.
Does it have a pistol grip?
No.
Doesn't have a pistol grip.
It's a thumb hole stock. It's unconverted. It's in its ban.
Somehow stocks considered a personal grip you fucked.
That damn New York, I tell you.
Your best bet to have a gun like that is just have a goddamn shotgun. Have a pump shotgun.
Oh, I thought I'd made a good move there. I thought I'd won, but I guess I hadn't.
No, I mean it all boils down to, like, technically you're right, but let's say you get pulled over, and in this state you don't have to tell them that what you have, but God forbid they search you or they find it or whatever, and you have a problem, and you know what? You're probably eventually gonna win at the court, but you're gonna be probably out of 10 grand and multiple trips to New York, so it's just simply not worth it.
Yeah, it's probably more than 10 grand I'd lose. It'd probably be a couple hundred, and how many? I mean, attorney bills get expensive. If I'm going to jail, it probably would be a couple $100 grand. And
yeah, this state is definitely weird. I mean, it could be worse. It could be Massachusetts.
Yeah, well, like I had another holster manufacturer up there. He basically told me, he's like, yeah, once you get outside of these areas, he's like, it's like being back down south where you don't have to worry. But with the law enforcement contingent, it's kind of like Colorado where they don't enforce a lot of this stuff.
I mean, most of the cops are cool. I never really had a bad experience with the cops. But it just, you never know. Like, for example, all the state troopers in this area. The last time I saw them, they all look like my son. They literally probably just graduated the academy, so they're like all green behind the ears and maybe trying to make a name for themselves any way they can. So it's one of those things. And then this state is really screwed up. The sheriffs are usually cool, especially our sheriff, and all the deputies. They're real cool. But there's a guy up in, I think, Niagara County. He got pulled over for DUI, and the DUI at the end, it got thrown out in the court. But while they seized his vehicle, he had in a glove box, he had a safe with the default setting 000. And when they opened it up, there was no gun, but there was a standard capacity Glock magazine. So he wound up getting charged felony, something like possession of deadly weapon or assault weapon or some bullshit like that. And meantime, it was only a magazine. And he lost, and he appealed it, and he's still fighting it.
I hate it. I hate it. I've got family up there, and my grandparents are up there, and I'm supposed to be left his shotgun, just like a pump Winchester shotgun from 1950 something. And I don't even know if that'll be able to be transferred to me, like how that'll even work.
That's easy. When it goes out of state, they don't care. It just goes through the FFL and it's done.
Yeah. Okay.
When it comes into state, it's like Milster Mike was trying to send me some forced ammunition ammo. Somebody else promised me some too, but I never got it.
I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
But then he found out that he can't do it because there's no internet ammo sales to New York. It's got to go through the FFL and whatnot. So New York sucks.
Yeah, I sent you that ammo as well. Must have gotten hung up.
Yeah, they probably confiscated it at the sheriff's office.
That's right. That's right.
So the sheriff's budget for ammo goes down and they do more training now? Is that how this works?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be. That's what they do.
Oh, well, guys, we are getting on to pretty close to 8 o'clock here, and we like to keep these right about an hour because there's always more to talk about. It leaves it for potentially a part 2. Over 100 people watching. I typically wouldn't want to shut it down this soon, but got to stick to the rules on this. And I'm an early riser, so it's off to bed to me here before too long. But guys, any final thoughts on the 365 or anything else out there?
I'll just say this: get your hands on one, shoot it. I think you'll love the way it shoots, but I would just be very skeptical about trusting it. Granted, my perspective is jaded, but you can go out there and do your own research, and I think you'll see that there's definitely a higher rate than a lot of people are saying of failures and of different types of failures. I'm seeing injection issues, the trigger spring issue, and the strikers. So those are the most common things I'm seeing.
Gotcha. Bob?
Research.
I would have to agree. I would just add that don't form judgment before you shoot one, before you put a couple hundred rounds or 1,000 rounds through it. Don't just believe all the internet hype. Make your own decisions based on your experiences, and definitely with all the crap going on, I would put at least 1,000 rounds through the gun, make sure that nothing breaks, nothing. No,
I'd say put at least 1,001 because that's where mine broke. So right at 1,000.
Yeah, but you're broke because you handed over to a big-handed Yankee.
Yeah,
He probably gripped it too tight and squeezed the firing pin out.
Yeah, right.
His handshake wasn't that strong, so I'm not going to go for that. But I'll also say this gun shoots incredibly well, like Ball was saying. So be careful. It's a little bit like a drug where you might like it a little too much and be willing to forgive it because it has features that, frankly, no gun in its class has. So,
well, this gun kind of is in a class of its own.
It is.
I don't think there is another gun that you can really compare it to as far as all the stuff that it offers. So it is its own class as far as the size, ammo capacity, and the features that it offers. So it is a class of its own. But like I said, don't trust it right away. But then again, don't get discouraged either because, unless you got one that was made at Friday at 3:30, like Harry's gun, then you should be okay.
Both.
Right. I echo what you guys are saying. I mean, you definitely get your hands on one if you can. They are a ton of fun to shoot, and all the features are top notch. Certainly, in its class. I totally echo that, Bald. But I would also say put plenty of rounds through it. I mean, I've certainly read comments where people said, I put 200 rounds through it in a holster, it's ready to go. I would probably do more than that, just for the sake of argument. But it also gives you a chance to practice a little bit more. So it's an excuse to get to the range and have a little bit of fun, make some noise. So that's always good as well. There's kind of a twofold for you. But yeah, always interesting stuff. Let's go ahead and kind of wrap this up. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Certainly want to thank Harry and Bald for hanging out. This has been a ton of fun. It's a great group. And obviously each and every one of you that are out there, it's so much fun to see all of you guys. Saw a lot of new faces tonight, which is really exciting. Clearly people want to talk about the P365, and it's got an interesting future, I hope, ahead of it. So perhaps we might meet again down the road and be talking about perhaps a Gen 2 or something, and it might be a very different, more boring conversation. You never know.
Yeah. KS, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure for both of you guys, for sure. So again, everybody, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to go ahead and call it at this point in time, but we will definitely do this again. So thanks everybody for joining us, and have a great night.
Good night.
All right, bye. Guys, you guys hang on for a sec.